Alright, we finally get to the latest Predator movie, Predator Badlands. First Predator movie I saw in theater. I was so ready for this. I prepared, I did my homework, the screening was packed, everyone was excited.
The cinema was packed, was it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I went there opening night, so I guess.
Okay, yeah, fair. I mean, I went to see it last night at the cinema, and there was like 4 other people.
Okay. Yeah, like everyone was there because they were excited about a new Predator movie. So it was there was a nice vibe in the air. As we said, Dan Trachtenberg is the director, is the new auteur of the Predator franchise, and I think he's really hands-on in shaping this new mythology for Disney moving forward. And he clearly cares about Predator. You know, he understands Predator to an extent. And in some way, I think he also wants to kind of reshape the tone of the franchise to make it more viable, I guess, for a larger audience.
Yeah, and also without being too like nostalgic for the older movies.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? There's not like really stupid callbacks or lines that are being said out of turn that are just for the audience.
I mean, not callbacks to Predator. There's callbacks to Alien for some reason, but
yeah. But like it seems like, for the most part, it's kind of fan servicey, but done in the right way than wrong. Not having the guy from Alien Romulus say, "Get away from her, you bitch." Nothing as egregious as that, but like you said, trying to change the tone. I think this is the second Predator film because I saw A versus P at the cinemas as well, so if that one counts. But
okay, that makes sense.
long time since I've seen one of these at the cinema. Mine wasn't very busy, and immediately I'd heard some sort of reviews before. Nothing like spoilery, but just in general, like I knew it was getting good sort of ratings across the board because I'd seen some articles talking about how Prey, this, and Killer of Killers have all done really well critically, and you know, now it's like the best revival of a sci-fi franchise there's ever been. Not that was giving me like great expectations because, like I said, I didn't love Prey, didn't love Killer of Killers, so I was very keeping myself grounded for this one.
Of course you did. You're always so fucking joyless, man. Just have some hope every once in a while.
Well, I tell you what, it got sucked out of me when I saw the screen pop up and it said 12A. I was like, oh my god, how can this be a 12A? What the fuck is going on?
Hey, there's androids, there's no humans, so you know you can kill everyone,
Yeah.
but there's no blood.
It probably is as like violent and as gory as a 15 would be if there had been like any real humans in there.
Yeah.
And they max out that rating. I feel like you still do get your decently gory moments, but yeah, that immediately made me quite worried for the movie when I saw that.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie. Let's get this out of the way. It's a decently entertaining one. There's some good moments, but going back to the idea of the tone and the fact that it's clearly meant to be this entry point into the franchise, and moving forward they want to make more of this. Clearly, I really felt, which really brings me to the biggest gripe that I have with the movie, which is the humor.
Oh god, yeah, that felt like proper like studio notes. Like, we need more funny stuff to happen in this scene because it's boring.
I felt it was out of place 50% of the time, and the rest of the time it was mostly unfunny or badly executed. And you know what? It was disappointing to me because I was really looking forward to a crazy alien adventure on a planet that wants to kill you. The trailers kind of sold me on the premise of this Predator, you know, like they're trying to humanize Predators to make them more protagonist material, I guess. And this guy, you know, like, is the runt of the family. He needs to prove himself. He needs to go kill this big beast. And I think if the movie was just gonna be that, just like him going on this planet and trying to find this beast to prove his worth to his father, you know, maybe it would have been simpler, maybe it would have been more obvious. But I feel like that was what the movie was promising us. And we get some of it. But at the end of the day, it feels pretty sanitized. And the fact that the people on the planet are just and Yautja androids, outside of the alien reference, which makes my geeky brain wake up and oh my god, what does this mean? It's gonna be a crossover again. But like outside of that, you're like, you have this pretty brutal dismemberments and destruction, but it never feels real, it never feels dangerous, it never feels consequential in any way. A lot of the action felt weightless, is what I'm saying. You know, it felt choreographed. There's an action sequence at the beginning where the protagonist, Deck, I think his name is.
Deck, yeah.
He he fights with his brother.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, yeah, this I wanted to, because this really summarizes my problems with the movie. Because, yeah, you have the fight with him and his brother in this cave, super dark, can barely see what's going on. I don't know whether you had this too. Like, it was so visually muddy, like this fight at the beginning. And I was like, who's going where? What's going on? This is clearly to cover up bad CGI.
And they don't cover it up enough, I guess.
No, and then it was followed by like a really good scene, I thought. Probably the strongest scene in the movie with the dad, the brother, and Deck.
Yeah, the turning point
Yeah.
with the dad kind of like killing the brother, trying to kill him, and he escapes and goes on this planet to prove himself and prove his worth. Kicks off the events of the movie in a strong way, but like that action sequence, it's your ticket, it's your introduction to the movie, to the premise, to the idea, and there's no weight to the action, there's no impact in the hits. It feels like it's not real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I feel like action is not real, then an action movie stops being interesting.
So, yeah, so much of the action just feels like two toys like smashing together. You know what I mean? It's, yeah, like you said, it just doesn't feel legitimate. And I think, just going a bit further into the story, I guess, a lot of that is down to very generic creature designs and creatures that they fight. Like, this was a great opportunity to come up with some cool stuff when him and his brother are cycling through like the options, because he has to go on this big hunt, and if he brings back the trophy, he'll be finally accepted into his like family's clan. And he's cycling through the options, and God, I just wish he had picked something else in that moment, because the Kalisk as the big antagonist, when you finally see it, it's the most generic monster that you've seen a million times before. What did you think?
Yeah, so the Kalisk itself, yeah, probably wasn't the most memorable design for sure. But the rest of the flora and fauna that they come across throughout the movie, I felt it was kind of interesting. You have these little worms, they have little bubbles on them and they explode. And then there's these flowers that also explode. Like everything explodes on this fucking planet.
Yeah.
But I felt like as I was watching this, generally, and it's not like a huge endorsement of the film. As you know, we did a week-by-week review of the TV show Alien Earth.
Yeah.
And the whole premise of that show was that they were going to introduce a bunch of new alien life forms into the franchise. There's going to be this Weyland-Yutani ship with a bunch of specimens. It's going to crash on Earth. It's going to be mayhem. It's going to be all these interesting creatures that have interesting life cycles and ways that they're going to kill and capture and make human life a living hell.
Yeah.
We went in a lot of detail about the reasons why we didn't like that show. And one of the reasons was that we thought that the ideas for the aliens were really uninspired. What we end up with is kind of like a big bug, slug alien kind of thing that sucks off blood and whatever. There's an eyeball with tentacles, which is probably the best one. There's a plant that kind of like camouflages on the wall and then gets you and eats you.
And then you have the beetle that spits out the venom.
Yeah, same acid as the xenomorph as well. So like it was very uninspired, and then the show itself ended up being about something else entirely. It was way more interested in the AI synthetic side of the story than the aliens themselves. So I felt, funnily enough, that this movie was more interesting in the way it showed different flora and fauna and how the predator manages to harness the nature of this very hostile world to become a warrior.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It does it way better than Alien Earth, but in a very similar vein, like you just mentioned, it drops all that stuff for a large portion in sort of around the middle of the movie and becomes another story about synths and like wanting to be human, and it really it becomes what's her name?
Elle Fanning.
Thea. Elle Fanning, but Thea's the character's name. Thea's story, like it very much becomes her story. I feel like kind of around halfway through, and the Predator comes back into it in sort of the last act. And yeah, you were just saying I like the flower that spits out the needles that paralyze you. That was kind of interesting looking, and I quite liked the big thing that was swinging up in the trees that tried to eat them. But yeah, like the first thing they encounter is just like Sam Raimi Evil Dead tree that's trying to grab them.
Yeah. very first level of a video game kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Like if we had seen, because it takes like so this bird like dragon thing that's like looking at the predator at the beginning. It's like
Yeah.
snatches it away behind him, and maybe if we saw that it had some really weird and disgusting like digestive process and like painful for the creature, then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then you've made that a little bit more interesting than being like such a generic. Oh, it's a tree monster with all the branches for arms, and yeah, I was already like, oh god, is this what we're gonna have to be dealing with? And then it did get a little bit more interesting. Like I like the addition of like the razor blade grass and like how other creatures have adapted to live on this planet. There was some strong stuff there, and then we get the introduction of Bud. Is his name Bud?
The little guy.
Which is so Disney. I was like, here we go.
Yeah. I was like, oh, we need the mascot.
Some cute little funny thing that's gonna walk around and fart, and everybody's gonna be like, oh, look how cute he
As
is.
soon as they introduced him, I was like, oh, first of all, this is gonna be a good alien, and he's gonna follow them around, and he's gonna be cute the whole time. Cute, but kind of disgusting, but mostly cute. And that's exactly what they do with him. And then, oh my god, he's a fucking small Kalisk and whatever. And I was like, can it just be a different alien? Why do you have to connect it to the story in such a way? I don't know. It didn't work for me, honestly. I found him annoying.
That was the only bit that kind of worked for me, that they revealed that actually, oh, it's like a baby Kalisk and it marked him, and that's why it didn't kill the predator. I was like, okay, well, at least you've like somewhat tried to link it in with the plot other than him just being cute little funny relief mascot. Because yeah, god, I like especially like after a fairly strong opening for this film, once the predator's on the planet, I was starting to get so worried. And I think it all stemmed from, which I had these worries from seeing the trailer too, just like Ellie Fanning's performance. And I
Yeah.
said it about Alien Earth, and I'm so sick of like these quirky, silly androids. Like, why are Weyland-Yutani are like the worst corporation in the history of movie franchises? Because they make these
Yeah.
emotionally unstable, synthetic, superhuman androids, and they give them emotions to the point where they can lie to their creators. They can have feelings for one another to the point where they're going to go against their programming. And it's just like, how have Weyland-Yutani got to this point? Because they you'd think they'd have like an android uprising every single day with how like unstable these things are.
Yeah, I dislike the fact that she was so bubbly and sarcastic, and they're trying to justify it by saying that there are a bunch of different android personalities, let's say, based on the function that the android has. So she's more human because she's supposed to be more empathetic because it was like a lab, like experimenting.
God, yeah, and we get stuck with the annoying one. Great.
Yeah, the sister, the evil sister, was actually the more interesting one of the two.
So much better, yeah, and like believable as a synthetic human, like, and it just shows you, oh, Ellie Fanning, and obviously she's a good actress. Like I knew she could do
She's
that.
a great actress. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the creative decision to make it like that, and it's like we said before, it's somewhat feels like studio notes, because it's like, well, we can't just have an alien predator who's like cold and stoic the whole movie, and it's like, you could try. You could try.
And also I was really curious of her performance, because I mentioned to you that I'm writing a sci-fi story right now, a sci-fi script, and there's this android character, and even before I knew about Badlands, I was like fan casting it in my head, because it's easier to picture the story when you have like specific actors in mind. And I chose Elle Fanning as to play an android character in the movie. So I was like, oh, I'm really curious to see how she's gonna play this. And
have you just changed that mental fan casting in your head now? It's like, actually, no, I'm gonna do Michael Fassbender instead.
Well, speaking of Michael Fassbender, that's something that I wanted to mention, because with the old bubbly, sarcastic, funny personality that Elle Fanning has in the movie, I feel like they worked backwards in justifying it from the idea of, if we make a movie about an ugly alien and an emotionless android, no one's gonna watch it, so we need some humor. It can't be the predator, because then people are gonna riot in the street if we make the predator funny. So it has to be this fucking android.
Again, they tried. They did try sometimes.
But I feel like you mentioned Michael Fassbender, and maybe it's an unfair comparison, but David from Prometheus, Fassbender plays this character so well, because he feels like an android.
Oh my god.
But also he has emotions.
Yeah.
And likes and dislike, and he fucking bleaches his hair to look like Lawrence of Arabia. So I think like you can do emotion in synthetic beings in an interesting way without making the manic pixie dream girl, but it's a robot.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, yeah, we've seen it. We've seen it in previous iterations done way better as well. So it's just, I just don't know. And obviously, you know, Alien Earth referencing that, they do it to the nth degree. They're making them all silly children, and it's just like, I don't believe, like, this is just not what robots should be like, really.
Yeah, no, it's as I said, I much prefer the twin sister, who's the villain of the film. Unfortunately, appears kind of like not enough, so she doesn't leave a much of an impression. But what we see of her is way more interesting.
And like I made, like, when I was watching the cinema, I made one note on my phone, and because it was I guess at this point in the movie I was really kicked out of it, especially when Thea's just saved him from the pterodactyl thing, which was a really silly scene because she jumps off this hill from miles away with no legs and takes down this dragon like instantly, and then she's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm desperate for your help to get back to my legs, and it's like, you seem pretty capable, you could do that yourself. To be honest, you just took down this dragon, like, I'm sure you could just crawl back to your legs anyway. You don't need the predator. But he chucks her on his back, and I like the whole dynamic they have where he's like, no, you're a tool, and that's why I'm going to use you.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
And she uses that as a kind of like makes him get to that conclusion so that he can bring her along.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's,
that was all done really well. But then just when she's strapped to his back and they're having their first like little walk around together, the thing she is saying to him is so like quirky and silly. And she's like, do you use your outside fangs to eat or your inside fangs? But literally in the next scene, she then goes, what do you want me to tell you about? Because I'm an expert in the Yautja, and I'm an expert biologist, and she knows everything about them. And it's just like, well, we're asking like generally dumb questions before that. So it's like, which one is it?
you see, that was a humorous line, and now we have a serious line. So like those two things are done by two different people. We have the funnier AI guy.
It probably was. Yeah, so I was kicking me out of the film at that point because we have the introduction of her and we get the introduction of the little creature, the cute creature, and I was like, oh shit, here we go. Disney's Predator is in full motion right now. And there were many moments when it did get me back, and I think if I'm just talking like generally, overall, I enjoyed the movie for the most part, and I think it was decent.
Yeah.
But
That's fine.
yeah, it's so sanitized and it just feels very generic, and with a premise that could have been really interesting. Yeah, some really good moments in it, but
Yeah, make it R-rated, make it the solitary adventure of this predator on an alien planet with flora and fauna that tries to kill him, and maybe he runs into an android, and maybe there's people on the planet because there's a Weyland Yutani enterprise there, and it could work if it just took itself a little bit more seriously, and it really feels like a movie that just wants to set a bunch of stuff up. They're clearly leaning into the alien connections a lot. We have the Weyland Yutani androids, a straight up reference to the mech at the end of Aliens.
Yeah.
And luckily nobody says get away from her, you bitch.
I bet there was an iteration of the edit where there's more stuff like that in there. I guarantee you.
Dan Trachtenberg, I think, is a good director. I think he has a great creative mind. I also think he works for a big corporation who wants to make money, and so he has to kind of like put all this stuff in the movie because they force him to.
Yeah.
And I really like the ending. I really like that he goes back to the Yautja planet and kills his father.
I like that bit, and that fight is way better than the end fight with the power suit and the Callisk, I thought. But when they return to the Predator home world, and it's just like, it feels very low budget.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we've gone back to this cave and there's like 4 predators here. And it just because they're like this space conquering like warrior race who are so technologically advanced, it's like, I get it, maybe this is just a one offshoot of the clan and they live out in the sticks, but it just felt...
Yeah, I really want to see like a big Yautja city at some point.
Yeah, it just felt like this is the set we have, guys. We're coming back to it, and this is all we got. So you're gonna have to just imagine what it would be like.
Yeah, agreed. It's clearly limited by budget and limited in scope by the need to make it kid friendly in a way.
Which why?
Why would
Just
you?
why?
Why would you need to make a 30-year-old, well, almost 40-year-old franchise?
Synonymous for its violence and like R rating as well.
Like most of the fans that you still have are people in their 40s and 50s who want to see like a bloody Predator movie. And it's always the same fucking problem. They want to pander to a demographic that doesn't really care about the product that they're making. And so they end up making a movie that is not for anyone.
No, yeah, so true.
Yeah, they try to put we need a little bit of humor in here because then
We're gonna get the kids in. The kids are gonna love this. It's like the kids don't give a fuck about Predator. They don't even know what it is.
there is a reason why Predator never really broke into the mainstream. It's a popular franchise and there's a few movies that are really famous, but it's never gonna be Alien or it's never gonna be, I don't know, Avatar. You know why every time a new Avatar movie they make $1 billion? It's because they're sexy. James Cameron was smart. He's like, oh no, we're gonna make them like big cat people. They're gonna be lean and nice, big eyes.
So that's what they put little Bud in this movie for, little baby Callus, to get the kids in and be like, oh, look how adorable. They're going to make millions off the merchandising of that thing. Don't you worry, Tommy. Everybody's going to be clamoring for baby Bud at Christmas this year. It's going to be like Jingle All the Way, you know, everyone's going to be fighting at the store.
To get a Bud action figure.
To get the last baby Bud action doll.
Yeah, and Arnold is gonna come back for that, and it's gonna be a little bit of a crossover kind of like advertisement that they're gonna do. Yeah, man, I don't know. It's not a bad movie. It's a decent, fun time at the cinema.
Yeah, what do you think of the visuals of like Deck and the Predator itself? Like, because I thought in some moments it looks really good, and especially like there's a couple of times when he's like maybe breathing and you can see like the flap between his fangs, like the external fangs, like reverberating, and it's like, oh, that looks really good. But for the most part, it's a bit off-putting, like especially his eyes and his mouth when he's talking, and I guess it couldn't be done practically.
It is practical.
I know it's practical, but it's CGI over the practical, isn't it? For the most part.
Yeah, it's CGI over a practical suit. And honestly, I think the effects on Deck were the best in the movie, the more convincing ones, because generally I thought the effects were not as convincing. As I said, like the action feels weightless. There's a scene where Elle Fanning's legs lounge at someone and they're like, does that even work if there's no weight on top of the legs? How would they be able to make that movement and be able to kind of like strangle this person?
Yeah,
like it felt really cartoony in parts. So I felt like the face of Deck, the expressions that he was making, like sometimes it felt fake, but I guess you can't make something that is not real feel real all the time.
Yeah, it's just crazy when you look at the pictures from Predator 1 of what the thing looked like. It's got that, I like all those older like practical effects do. It like feels wet, it feels like it's there, it like feels like it's sweating in that moment. Like, I don't know, like you lose all of that texture when you put the CGI overlay over the practical stuff, unfortunately. And yeah, I guess when you're having it as the main character, you are gonna have to do that. And yeah, this budget constraints maybe stopped it from being as good as it could be. But yeah, I do agree with you. For the most part, I think I gave this like maybe a 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10 when it came out.
Yeah, it's decent. It's a fine movie.
What was your favorite scene?
It's either the end fight with the father or probably the gearing up scene when he grabs all
because he has like 2 gearing up scenes. He's got the gearing up with his stuff and then the gearing up with the like environmental things he finds.
Yeah, the second one.
Yeah,
the one like all the aliens that he came across throughout the movie. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna make it into a bomb.
That was cool.
We see how he uses those later with the androids at the facility. So the whole sequence was kind of fun.
Yeah, I like that a lot. The little bug slug thing that he turns into his shoulder cannon, that was the only bit where I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and then when he dies,
oh my
properly
God,
gutted.
that was so funny. Like, I saw it with my dad and brother, and when we came back from the cinema, we were talking about that bit where, because he like jumps to sacrifice himself to save the predator, and like
Yeah.
the music like kicks in to be really sad, and it's like this is basically just a weapon. Like I'm not gonna feel sad about this slug
But I
thing.
did. I honestly did. Like I
Oh
was
man, it
like,
got
oh
you.
no, because yeah, I mean, I'm easy to manipulate, as you can clearly tell.
That bit gave me probably my biggest laugh when the sad music kicked in during that
I
scene.
mean, it was funny and sad at the same time. I was like, oh no, because they were kind of like bonding with this little guy, and I was like, oh, it's new canon. It's gonna be his little buddy, and then
Feed
no,
it some berries, and it just becomes your entire slave that
yeah.
will sacrifice its life for you.
That part got me proper amped up for the finale.
Yeah, I think I agree. Either that sequence, the gearing up sequence with all the stuff we'd seen before was a nice touch. And yeah, like I said at the beginning, I really liked the confrontation between the dad, the brother, and Deck just after the fight that they had. I just thought it was a great setup for very, very like simple story, and just sells you on the world and the characters quite well. And like the opening, like the opening shot like through that crack in the mountain and then shows you the predator world was really cool. And some of the music in that bit, there was some music at the beginning and the end that was very like Dune, like that had this kind of like throat
Yeah.
singing, like very alien like voice. And yeah, I was like, oh, this, I was quite excited when the film began for what was to come.
Yeah, no, it's. I thought the music overall was fun, and also I don't know if you can even call it a post-credit sequence because it literally like it ends and then it doesn't end, and we have the actual ending of the movie.
It made me think there was something way bigger gonna happen. Like it was gonna be like Wayland or something. Do you know what I mean? It was gonna be a big alien crossover thing that happened at the end.
I'm happy it's not that. I'm happy it's more within the story of this. Like it's relevant to Deck. It's relevant to what we've experienced so far, and not just like, oh, it's Dutch from Predator 1. It's gonna come down from the chopper and be like, come with me if you want to live.
Danny Glover rolling up in just a police car, tearing down like the alien desert.
Okay, so we have the ending that they were going for would have been a chopper comes into view, Apocalypse Now style, with like the sun in the background, and like Dutch, Arnold Schwarzenegger comes down, and then a police car from the side, and it's Danny Glover, and then a pterodactyl, and on top of the pterodactyl, you have the girl from Prey, and they're like, you need to come with us.
And Thea turns to the predator and is like, oh, more friends of yours? And he just turns to her and goes, shit's about to get real. There you go, Dan Trachtenberg.
No, I mean, I'm intrigued, and also maybe you know more about Predator lore to know if this is something that was established in the comics, that like it's a matriarchal society, I guess, because
Not
he's
at all. Completely
okay.
the opposite is what I'd say, which is why it kind of annoyed me a little bit, because it's a bit like we've never seen a female predator ever in the whole franchise. And I guess it kind of, like you said, it alludes to the idea of, oh, the father, that was the easy kill. Now we got to kill the mum. And it's like, well, where the fuck are all the women predators then?
But yeah, like I think it's smart for them to ease into this. It's clear that they want to lead up to a big crossover, and maybe the next Alien movie is gonna hint at that even more. And then we are gonna have, like a second Predator movie in this new kind of like continuity with the story of Deck and his mother. And maybe in that movie they're going to introduce more alien stuff, and then slowly over time it's going to become, okay, now we do a new Alien versus Predator, or whatever
It
it's going
does
to be.
feel like that's the direction it's trending in, but they've kind of shot themselves in the foot a bit with this, because like we said off the bat, it's a 12A. Like as soon as you then take this to Earth, you're gonna have to start ripping people's skulls out from their heads and pulling their spines out, because that is what Predator is all about. And then bang, that rating goes straight back up to an 18, and it's like I don't know whether they're gonna want to do that. So is this now the sort of general direction they're going in?
They're never going to go back to Earth. They're just going to be on different alien planets with aliens with differently colored blood.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to imagine what they're leading up to, and that's kind of fun because it's not like, oh my God, they're just going to do a crossover again. Who cares? It feels like, it could be really cool or also really stupid, and it's probably gonna be stupid, but I like to be hopeful if I can.
If you get a good script going, then I would be so into another Alien versus Predator movie. Like it's
I mean, and bring back Adrian Brody.
yeah, fuck it, why not?
The two survivors from Predators. Bring everyone back and have to fight the girl from Alien Earth, who's now in charge of it. She's basically the alien queen, and all the xenomorphs listen to her.
Oh god, yeah. Alien versus Predator versus Wendy.
Amazing.
We might not be alone in this hunt.